Now I suffered every second of that run. I suffered.
Yeah.
But I could, if I tried that now, I'd die. Like you're accepting a permanent disability in exchange for a one-time ego-driven event.
Yeah. Hot. Very thirsty now. It's definitely the lack of water that's the killer.
If you injure yourself just trying to get to where you're going, then you won't be of any real value when you get there.
Suffering from some pretty good cramps in my quads right now. Dizzy, lightheaded, headache, like a good quality headache at the moment. Low 90s today was the high, 90, 91, something like that. 50% humidity, give or take. And without water, it is a death march. Welcome back. I am Jason Salyer, and this is my friend Joe. Yesterday, we attempted to walk 40 miles because we did a poll in the past couple weeks, and we asked basically what you would do if you were stranded in the middle of the desert, and it was 40 miles from anywhere. You had to walk 40 miles to get yourself out of there. Rescue wasn't coming. You're on your own, and all you had was a single bottle of water. Could you make it? And a lot of people, surprising amount of people said, yes, you could make it. Some people went as far as saying, no problem, 40 miles, piece of cake, I could do that in 8 hours. Tons of people said these types of things, so I thought the appropriate thing to do would be to test it and see if we could actually make it happen. This lap that we're walking in the town park that we're in is 3.3 miles, so if we do 12 laps, that equals approximately 40 miles. But the catch was you only got one bottle of water, and that was pretty much it. After about 20 miles, which was my prediction, up to 20 miles, I was feeling good. A little bit of pains, aches, and stuff like that, but no major issues. But after that, it just went like nosedived after 20 miles. And I only made it to about 30 before you advised me that it wasn't very wise to probably continue on.
I am a retired Special Forces medic. I got plenty of experience dealing with road marches, long range movements, basic foot care, hydration, and kind of the things required to sustain you over a long range foot movement.
You've probably seen your fair share of heat casualties and things of that nature.
Yeah.
We're maintaining about a 3.5 mile per hour pace so far, and we're about to come up on mile, what did we say, 17?
Yeah.
Mile 17 after this lap. Another really helpful thing is having some sort of electrolyte replacement. I had 2 of these in my liter of water that I was carrying with me and sipping on as I walked. And I do think that it was actually really, really helpful.
So to discuss the event from the standpoint of what would be optimal, right? Optimally, you'd be well fed, well hydrated. And along the way, I would recommend not taking like breaks, because once you take a break, in the Army we call it like a rucksack flop. But really what happens is when you sit down, you kind of the inflammation kicks in and swelling starts to take place. And after a rucksack flop, you find it much harder to get started again. And all the aches and pains are really profound until you kind of get your circulation going again.
Yeah.
So the fewer times you put yourself through that inflammation cycle is probably the better. Not to mention you'll just get the event over with.
Yeah,
right?
my goal was to not take any breaks, really. I didn't take any breaks at all until other than I had to stop and pee a couple times. So I didn't stop. Other than that, I didn't stop at all until mile 20. And that's when I changed my socks out. So far, so good. A little bit of aches and pains, but nothing too bad.
Because you need to do foot maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People just blow that off. It's just not seen as something very important. And I would say anybody in the infantry knows how important your feet are. They are your world.
Mm-hmm.
So learning how to correctly use moleskin, right? Putting some foot powder on, changing your socks from time to time will actually increase your efficiency over time and decrease the amount of injuries you're going to have. Because if you got a blister, halfway through a 20-mile, 40-mile movement and you didn't treat it, you didn't take care of it, and it got infected.
Yeah.
So
now you're screwed.
Now if you're in the military, yes, because in the military, you're not just walking from point A to point B. When you get to point B, then the work starts.
Then you got to do stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
If you injure yourself just trying to get to where you're going, then you won't be of any real value when you get there.
6. Woo! Lap number.
We're on lap number 6 of 12. It's almost too easy. Almost too easy.
Well, if I move 20, 30, 40 miles, then am I going to have the ability to set up shelter if I didn't? You know what I mean? If the payoff wasn't in fact at the other end, oh crap, now I got to get food, water, all these things. Am I going to be in the position to do self-care when I get there? It's actually quite hard to move a long distance. It's never in the beginning.
Yeah.
Everybody feels real good in the beginning. It's maintaining a healthy but efficient pace over the course of several hours.
Right.
That actually requires a little bit of practice. Like, you should expose yourself to a meaningfully long distance walk.
Right. Yeah, see, everybody has their theories. Like, it's easy, and this is what I think quite a few people did on that survey, was they said, oh, I can walk 3 miles per hour. 3 miles per hour times 12 hours, oh yeah, I could do it, no problem. But what they don't realize is that the compounding effects of those overuse injuries and dehydration and the heat and just the elements that you're dealing with all makes it much more challenging.
People's knees start to ache. You start to realize your ankles are aching. Those hot spots start to wear. You realize real quick that you don't have the optimal shoes for this. I can't imagine too many situations where you're going to be in some type of an emergency and just so happen to have your best footwear on.
You got everything you need.
You got everything, right. So even if you didn't have a backpack, the idea that you got your best socks, your best hiking gear on your feet, it's probably not going to happen.
Not complaining, just documenting. My big toe on my right foot, it's got a little bit of something going on there, but I'm going to swap my socks out at mile 20, which is after we finish this lap, and I'll take a look and assess the damage. Back of my left knee, a little bit of pain. Not bad, but again, these are things like, if you don't go out and do this stuff, it's all theoretical until you go out and do it, right? So I'm a reasonably fit individual, exercise on the regular, but walking 20 miles is abusing my body quite a bit.
Everybody started off wearing, a couple of the folks had nice, comfortable sneakers. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's the repetition of what you're doing that's going to start to grind down your suspension system.
I had really good luck with my feet. I didn't even notice I had a blister until yesterday evening when I got done. I felt the ball of my foot, like right where my big toe meets the ball of my foot. I had a small blister right there. So I didn't have any issues really with my feet. No blisters on the back of the heels, none of that stuff. I was feeling really good about that. It was just knees and hips and muscle cramping.
If you got decent shoes on, they'll hold up to the damage of the walk. So like most of these nice, comfortable like workout shoes, they're really made out of cheap foam, and they're only meant for you to use them for somewhere between 20 minutes to an hour in a gym setting. You start getting 6-7 hours into that, foam starts to compress. It's no longer supporting you the way it did, when you first started. Like, they're different shoes by the time you get to the end of the march. Your feet are still the same, but when you start the 20-miler versus when you end the 20-miler, you're wearing two different sets of shoes. So
they're stretching out, and
So you do have to condition your feet if this is something you're going to do. And if you take care of your feet while you're doing your conditioning, like putting the moleskin on when it's a hot spot, instead of waiting for it to blister, take care of it now, especially when you're conditioning, and you'll build up calluses, and your skin will toughen, and your boots will break in, and your socks will break in.
This trail that we're taking is pretty forgiving. I mean, it's rolly, it's up and down, I wouldn't say it's treacherous climbing, but the little hills, kind of like this guy here, are getting more and more noticeable as we go on.
And proper hydration is super important.
That's what inevitably got me. Like, I was really dehydrated. The front of my forehead was was compressing. It was getting really uncomfortable. I was starting to get dizzy.
You're starting to feel your blood pressure drop. You're starting to feel, at the cellular level, your body's not quite processing what it's supposed to process.
When I noticed when I was in the shade, I was pretty good, but as soon as I went into a sunny patch, I would almost immediately hear and feel my heartbeat in my head.
So when you're conditioning, I say take breaks to do maintenance, but don't take breaks like rucksack flop and, okay, I'm going to stop for 10 or 15 minutes. No, you need to keep moving. But when you're in a super hot, dry environment with limited water, you need to take breaks to conserve, right? So if I was out, and I did this a few years ago, where I was out hiking with a family in the Mojave Desert. In the middle of the day, it was well over 110 degrees. And but what I would do is when we found a rocky outcropping with some shade, yes, we could physically keep going. I would stop and make everybody take a break in the shade,
Cool off.
cool off a little bit, get your your body systems to relax a little bit, hydrate, and then go back out.
Yeah.
And the net result is, you feel fresher at the end of it. You're able to maintain a healthy pace. If I was in the desert and I had to move a long distance, I would do it at night.
Yeah.
Right. But
100%.
if you can't, you can't.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all you gotta do. I will not be back.
Okay.
Nobody fall over, please.
Okay.
Let's get a good medic here.
Pull them up.
I feel like I'm holding up okay.
Yeah, they look good.
I don't want to do
Was in the scenario that I presented was, basically you have several options in this survival scenario. One of them was to wait till dark and head out the 40 miles in the darkness and the cooler in the evening and night. So that was what we would have done. I would like to have simulated that perfectly in this environment, but we don't live in the desert, right? We don't live in the desert, and it's hard to film at night. It's a pain in the neck, so we did it in the day. But yes, moving at night would be really, really smart. But I think what I was just trying to get at is, like, what is a realistic scenario for someone having to go on foot for a really, really long distance? Most people, I know for a fact, most people overestimate what their capabilities are.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah.
So the infantry standard in general with 40, 50 pound rucksack is about 15-minute miles.
Yeah.
Now that's pretty that's 4 miles an hour. That's
That's
pretty
fast.
it's a clip, but it's a sustainable clip.
Yeah.
It's a sustainable pace if you're conditioned and you train for it. Look, it's not lightning fast.
Yeah.
You're not going to set any records with that.
Right.
But
that's not screwing around stroll. That's getting it.
That's put your pack on and move out.
Yeah.
Just the repetitive motion of your body over hours is gonna wear you down.
Yeah.
Like if I laid on my back, and this is not the best example, but I think it illustrates the point, and I just moved my arms like I'm bench pressing with no weight, and I just did that for several hours,
rough.
with zero resistance.
Yeah.
Like my shoulders, elbows,
Yeah.
it's my back is gonna start to feel the wear.
Yeah.
Just from the repetitive motion, you're going to start to induce overuse injuries.
Inflammation's going to start setting in.
Yeah, and the same thing's happening when you're carrying your body weight.
This is 20 miles. We're halfway.
Yeah, you look all right.
Looks okay.
And one of the reasons why I told a couple of you guys, all right, you're done here, is once you get a heat injury, you're more susceptible to heat injuries. So I'm not saying that you can't power through that. If it's an emergency, or if you're in the military and you're in a firefight for your life or something, yeah you're going to power through it. But really what you're doing in a training setting is you're building in a disability. So I would explain it like, okay, we're doing the 40 miles. And everybody was good up to about 20 miles. But then from 20 to 30, they started to feel it. Okay. Well, if you kept powering through that, dehydrated, pushing your heat exhaustion, really I'm not saying you couldn't finish the event with just a gut check, but the next time you do that event, instead of making it to 20 miles, you're going to make it to 15, because now you've
got a scar.
You've got a scar, right? Your body's going to get into that physiological response much sooner, because you've broken your thermometer, and you've built it. Same thing with cold weather injuries. If you ever get clinical hypothermia, you'll be more susceptible to cold weather.
Yeah.
Just so you know, this is the effluent from the wastewater treatment plant.
Well, it would be more friendly if you didn't tell me that.
Listen, there's nothing that's going to keep me out of that river.
Yeah.
After 40 miles of
I
walking.
usually really like
Okay.
you, and I'm kind of resenting you now.
There could be a floater going downstream.
Yeah.
And I might still jump in. After 40
Wait for it to pass.
Yeah, I'd wait for it to go.
Yeah.
I might shoo it with a
Do
stick.
it. Yeah. And then jump in.
And then jump in. It's downstream.
Yeah.
It's fine.
When you're conditioning, you don't want to push yourself into that disability injury zone.
Yeah.
You want to get right up to the line of it, and then back off.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know how do you know where the edge is unless you cross over it?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you should try to get up there, maybe sustain just before you get there. And that's the difficult part. I know when I was younger, if I imagined myself in a fist fight or something, magically in my mind, all my punches landed and none of theirs did.
Yeah, you're Jackie Chan.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing here. It's like in your head, you think these things are going to be much easier than they really are. Sometimes it's just as critical to know what you can't do as it is important that you know what you can do. Because if you realize, hey, I can't actually do this, you will avoid making dumb decisions.
A really bad decision, potentially life-threatening decision. Yeah, I think it's like having another tool in your tool belt. This is going to affect the decisions that you make going forward in the future. So if I ever was in some crazy situation where I had to walk a long ways to get to something, I know what it would be like. I can anticipate how my body's going to feel once I get there, and I can determine whether that's a good choice or a bad choice. Summertime, Georgia, you can hear the cicadas in the background, and when I hear cicadas, it's like, what's the dog response? The Pavlov's dog, that salivates when he hears a bell. When I hear a cicada, I automatically sweat. I think it could be 30 degrees outside, and if you played a recording of that, I'd start sweating. so it's pretty hot out. I apologize for not being able to replicate the desert climate that we talked about. The 110 degree dry air desert. It's the best I could do.
I don't know how many times I used to see in training scenarios, organizations would make these ridiculous medevac plans. Okay, we're just going to put so-and-so into this evac system, and we're going to hump them 1,000 meters into the woods. And like, dude, you're not doing that. So if that's your plan,
that's a terrible idea.
If that's your plan, let's go out and rehearse that plan. And it's not to bust their chops. It's to kind of bring them back down into reality. Because if you're out in an emergency situation or a combat situation for the military, so your opinion doesn't mean anything. You live in the real world, life or death, and you actually have to know what you can and can't do.
Right.
You start making decisions based off inflated ego. People will start to get killed and people will start to get real injuries.
Yeah.
And for sure there might be one or two folks out there who could probably do something like that.
Yeah, no question there's elite distance runners and stuff that could crush 40
I mean,
miles.
there's so many factors. Your age. I know when I was in the Army, when I was younger, when I was going through the Q course, I could go out drinking till whatever o'clock in the morning. At most get an hour or two of sleep, show up probably still drunk, completely dehydrated, and I could still go run however long they were going to make us run that day. Now I suffered every second of that run. I suffered. But I could, if I tried that now, I'd die. Like
it would literally kill me.
It would kill me if I tried to do what I did when I was in my 20s. I absolutely could not do that. So I have to be careful that when I'm starting to think of my capacity to respond to a situation at my age now, because my tendency is to think that, hey, I'm a 20-something
I still got it.
stud,
I still got it.
I'm not.
Put me in. My prediction was that about halfway is when it's going to start to get real. That's when things start to hurt. And that's true. The back of my knee, this knee, no bueno. Something's not right. The tourniquet just cut it off. It doesn't feel good. But the show must go on.
But what I envisioned was everybody kind of going at an even clip, feeling good in the beginning, and then powering through discomfort, and then falling off the cliff. So everybody was starting to fall off the cliff at various times, kind of based off their conditioning. You have quite a bit more conditioning than the bulk of the group, so I naturally expected you to kind of go a little bit longer. And I expected to kind of proceed along that basis, the least conditioned to the most conditioned. But at the end of the day, everybody kind of going along. And then, your body is going to, at some point, say, hey, look.
Stop it.
Stop.
This is stupid.
Right? You can mentally push yourself past things. Like if you're in the pool and you start to see, if you're holding your breath, you start to see the world shrinking.
The tunnel,
You can go a little bit further, right? But at some point, there are certain venues, especially with hot weather, cold weather, dehydration. At some point, it's like, not that you can't push past it,
Yeah.
but you're accepting a permanent disability in exchange for a one-time ego-driven event.
Yeah. 24 miles in, doing all right, real thirsty. I've drank most of my liter already. I've probably got, I don't know what's left, not much. Taking like just a couple of drinks, a couple of gulps, I should say, every time I complete a 3.3 mile lap. But those gulps are getting bigger and bigger with each lap. I made it to 30 miles. That's when we kind of called it. It's probably a smart decision to stop going. I think if my life depended on it, I think I could have hobbled, zombied my way to 40.
Well, I think if you were in a crisis setting, everybody's behavior would have been different.
Yeah.
Like, you would have drank out of that creek.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
You would have powered through. If my family was on the line, then I will accept a hot weather injury in exchange for the results I need.
Yeah.
Right. But and that's the difference between a real world event and a training event.
Yeah.
We want to do these training events up front, so that when we're faced with that real world event, we kind of have an idea of what's realistically capable. Got quite a bit of pain in my left knee, like tendonitis kind of feeling on the right side of my back of my knee. Feet are just achy, but not too painful. Doing okay. Just chugging along. It's easier to stay prepared than it is to get prepared, and part of that's your conditioning.
Yeah.
You know, I hope that some of the folks who did the walk yesterday, I do. I hope they walked into it thinking, no big deal. We're just going to walk around the park. And then they come out of it thinking, wow, I really need to take a look at my shoes, take a look at my feet.
Yeah.
One of the guys is notorious for wearing what I would consider to be, in general, terrible footwear. For orthopedically speaking, it's just so bad for you. So even if he had the right shoes, boots, and foot care, he was already set up for failure because of what he was doing unrelated to this event.
Yeah.
He's running around with these farmer boots.
Yeah.
Right, which are meant to just keep poop off your feet.
Right.
And his feet were kind of wearing into that. So that now when he's finally got on decent shoes, which should have been more than adequate for the situation, he starts off behind the power curve because of something he's doing unrelated. Hot.
Very thirsty now. Really thirsty. We're getting close to, I guess I'm approaching mile 30. A few miles from there, I guess. 27, 28 miles, something like that. Whew. First signs of like dizziness and stuff. Definitely getting hot and dehydrated. So that's nice. Got that going for me.
I have one pair of shoes for running. I only run in them. I don't walk in them because they wear differently. You have a different gait.
Yeah.
I have one pair of shoes for powerlifting and weightlifting. I have what I consider to be my hiking boots or shoes, and then I have my work boots and work shoes, and I don't interchange them.
What would be your strategy going into something like this? Your goal was to walk 40 miles or 12 hours, whichever comes first. What would your strategy have been going into it, starting at the feet, footwear?
Well, it depends on what my cargo capacity is, okay? So, like you had the butt pack, some of the other guys just had cargo shorts. I would bring a simple foot maintenance kit. Small scissors, small skin, maybe a little, one of those travel cases of foot powder. Change of socks if I could.
Yep.
I would have the appropriate footwear. Now, I'm not doing weight bearing, and it would depend on if I'm going off trail or on trail. But for something like yesterday's event, I'd be comfortable with a fairly new, broken but not worn down pair of, maybe some cross trainers or something.
That's what I wore. Yeah.
I need a little more arch support. I got pretty flat feet. But something along those lines. Not running shoes.
First 8 hours just passed, and I've walked 27 point something miles. Real thirsty.
My favorite long-range walking shoe by far is the good old-fashioned Army Jungle Boots. I get them resold and I get them tweaked a little bit.
Everybody says those are great. I've never tried them. Might need to get some.
They are fantastic.
Really?
But your socks, right? Like I wouldn't show up to SFAS, Special Forces Selection with brand new socks. Even your socks wear in.
Really?
Yep, your socks wear in, kind of relative to the boots. So when I went to selection, as a good example, I had a green pair of jungle boots and a black pair of jungle boots. So, and the socks I had are the ones I trained in. So they were broke in just like the boots were broke in. So I would have my broken socks, again, not worn, but broken socks, a change of socks, the moleskin. Especially if you're not hiking or marching a lot, you're gonna need the moleskin. It's has nothing to do with your pride and ego. It's about taking care of your suspension
so you can keep
system.
going. Yeah.
I mean, they're your tires.
Yeah.
If you got bald tires, you need
Yeah.
I wouldn't drive across the country. Same logic. But if you're hiking a lot, like I may not even dip into any of the foot care stuff other than from time to time stop, powder my feet, change my socks.
Mm-hmm.
You want to hike with dry socks and powdered feet. I saw plenty of folks yesterday with, just the wear and tear on their feet really didn't have much to do with the shoes so much as they were just humping on sweaty feet.
Sweaty feet.
Creek here. Such a tease. There's ice cold water.
Yeah. I had one change of socks, and moleskin basically was my preparation. That's all I brought. So I was gonna hoof it till about halfway. 20 miles was my goal, and then I was gonna put fresh dry socks on, let my feet dry out for a minute, put fresh socks on. If I had any hot spot blisters, I was gonna take care of that then. Again, like my feet were fine, as far as blisters go for the most part. It was just everything else above that was not fine.
Well, you got to practice these things. You got to look at it like a pit stop, like in NASCAR. They could probably go untold amount of laps before they actually had to stop.
Yeah.
But they do pit stops because it's about the overall, it's the sum total of the event that you're accounting for. So I'm not saying you got to take stops early. That's going to depend on your conditioning and the boots you're hiking and everything else. But make planned stops.
Yeah.
I put moleskin on, especially if I haven't been marching in a while. I put it on. The second I feel a hot spot, I stop. I put it on. I don't let it progress into this painful thing. Because you end up, if you don't take care of it now, you end up slowing way down and limping. And once you start limping relative to one injury, then you start wearing down your hips
Something else
and your back.
happens,
It just starts the chain reaction.
Yeah.
First signs of dehydration. So I'm really thirsty. I've been really thirsty pretty much since I started, I guess. But I'm getting a little bit of a headache going on right now, like cotton mouth. Little dizziness every now and then, not like bad. Muscles are a little bit crampy, not terrible. And the back of my knee is just really feeling good. I'm having to do this like modified like kick and swing. The old kick and swing method is what I'm calling it because I can't move my knee or my leg the way I'd like to.
That's what was going on with me is I developed a limp because of the knee, and that limp caused my right leg to get fatigued more because I was relying more heavily upon it, and I was getting cramping in my right quad, which was like debilitating because then I couldn't stand up straight. that caused my back to hurt. My lower back started to hurt because it was getting tight from leaning over. It was just this compounding of negative effects that was going on because of one thing.
And 40 miles is quite a haul. I mean, if you look at most metro cities, and I did this on an Atlanta map, like 15 miles are probably, if you were in the center of Atlanta and you could walk 15 miles in any direction, you could basically walk out of the city.
Yeah.
So 15 miles is your realistic what you need to walk to get out of any potential, uncertainty.
Yeah.
If you wanted to go further than that, or you wanted to do something other than that after the 15, okay, well, you got to have a little bit more capacity beyond 15 miles.
Mm-hmm.
But most places, I mean, I can hardly think of a few situations if I could just walk for 15 miles.
15 miles would get you out of the problem.
I just wouldn't be in the problem.
Yeah.
It's definitely the lack of water that's the killer. The distance sucks, but man, I am parched.
So for me, I usually keep if I'm getting outside my get home zone, whatever you want to call it, I'll usually keep a spare of walking shoes.
Yeah.
Just throw them in the back of the car.
Yeah.
You know, I'll put in each shoe a pair of socks. So if something happened, because I couldn't possibly walk the distance I need to walk in my work boots.
Yeah.
I'd
That
have
would
a
be
stress
misery.
fracture. Yeah. I'd have stress fractures.
Yeah. One guy had developed shin splints. And shin splints, if continued on and you keep pounding on them, eventually will turn into a stress fracture.
Eventually.
Yeah, and it's pretty miserable. That's real. If you've never had shin splints before that are bad, it's
rough.
rough.
It's rough.
Yeah.
So it didn't take much to throw a good pair of shoes. Again, broke in, not worn down.
Yeah.
28.78 miles with 1 liter of water. The liter of water has been gone for a long time. And I'm really thirsty. Oh, you son of a gun. As he sips water behind the camera. Don't you do it!
YouTube's got these things when you speed up,
they
show you where the
most
part is.
How dare you, sir? Oh, you son of a gun. As he sips water behind the camera. Don't you do it!
YouTube's got these things when you speed up, they show you where the most part is. You're
How dare you, sir?
So the original scenario was that you were off-roading, you were 4x4 in the middle of the desert somewhere. This is like worst case scenario. Like it'd be stupid to put yourself in this situation in the first place, but let's say you're there, you're 4x4, you overturn your 4x4, you end up down in this drainage, right? That can't be seen from the road. You've turned it over, your truck's upside down. All the water jerry cans you had in the back of your truck, damaged, broken, water spills out everywhere, all over the sand. Thankfully you're not injured, but you're stuck. No one's expecting you for several days. Chances are if you stay there, you can just sit there and cook, die of dehydration just sitting there, because all you got is one bottle of water right here. And what would you do in that situation?
Well, I guess it would depend on the resources I had. I mean, if I had the ability, despite being mired in the mud, and if I had the ability to set up shade, shelter, signal, maybe a solar still, I'd investigate my options.
Yeah.
But realistically, before I go out into an area like that, I'm going to kind of do map checks, map recons. How far am I from, where I started? Sometimes it's shorter to go the other way. Maybe 5 miles this way versus 10 miles.
Yeah.
Getting back to where you started.
Yeah, just having a basic lay of the land in your mind,
In your mind. Kind of have my basic, north, south, east, west. Hopefully I'd have a map. But yeah, I would investigate, especially in the desert. I would do movements at night.
Yeah.
You got to be careful because depending on the type of desert you're in, there's wadis and stuff. But the best part about the desert at night is you can see the city lights for quite a while.
Yeah. You can target.
And you can target. So there's plenty of times where I've been out in the desert. You can look around like, okay, such and such city's over here. You can see the lights. They're over the horizon, but they're there. You can see this city kind of off in the distance. That's all pitch black. So I'm going to head towards the light. And the benefit of walking at night is, especially in an arid desert, it's generally cooler at night. Here, I don't even know if it matters if you walk into there at night. It's so swampy.
It's still hot, yeah.
But it's a little harder to navigate at night in the woods. But in the desert, yeah, I would try to walk at night, take frequent breaks to conserve my energy, and because remember, you're breathing off as much fluid as you're sweating out.
Yeah.
Suffering from some pretty good cramps in my quads right now. The back of my knee is really hurting, causing me to walk funny, but I got some cramping going on in my upper quad on my right leg, and that's nice.
It's not a race.
It's not a race.
Yeah, you're not trying to break any records.
And I would head towards the lights.
Yeah. Leave some sort of signal, some sort of note which direction you went.
Which way I went.
Yeah. Set a tire on fire, signal, do the best you can, but yeah, start hoofing it because.
But if the topic is what would I do with regards to walking, I think it comes back with doing a map check before. Knowing where the area I'm in, having a good understanding of the terrain and the location I'm at, and having available to me good walking shoes. Because I'm guilty, as I am today, I wear flip-flops.
Yeah.
But which are bad for you orthopedically. They
Do
just
as I say, not as I do.
Well, you know, it is what it is. But I do keep shoes. Like even now out in the truck, if I had to walk home from here, I
Yeah.
got some shoes inside.
You're fine.
Yeah,
Oh, and
I can get home.
it's not far. You could walk home in flip flops from here.
Yeah,
So,
but
yeah.
I could. I would.
Yeah.
I could.
Told that my face is kind of sunk in a little bit, and I look a little bit dehydrated, and I mean, I got this crazy cotton mouth and headache, and getting a little dizzy. So we'll see how much further I want to endure this, because I don't want to injure myself in a permanent way. That would be really stupid. And I have a job to do. I mean, I've got work and kids and life. So if I was to injure myself to the point where I can't function for a week or two or whatever more, that's not smart. So as much as I'd like to do the 40 miles, I mean, that's just going to be, that's another 10 miles, more than 10 miles from right now. I'm almost at 30. 10 more miles without water in the heat of the middle of the day like this is probably not wise. Feeling really bad now. Dizzy, lightheaded, headache, like a good quality headache at the moment. And then I'm sweating less and less. I think not much going on up here anymore. A little bit, just maybe leftover, I'm not sure. But sweating less and less. And my good friend Joe, who's also a highly qualified medic, has told me that if I stop sweating, I've won. I've won the race. I think I'm pretty close. I feel pretty bad actually. Like all my front of my quads are cramping a lot, so it's hard to move them, and I'm having to like change the way I walk. Like, so we're at 30 miles ish. Just walking. Somewhere around low 90s today was the high, 90, 91, something like that. 50% humidity, give or take. And without water, it is a death march. 1 liter of water is not even close to enough. I mean, typically if I was gonna try to do something like this, I would drink gallons of water, literally. I mean, I don't know, what do you think, like 2-3 gallons minimum? More, probably? Yeah, 4 gallons of water if I was trying to do something like this. So 1 liter is not even close. Like, so, yeah, so I'm feeling awful. And when I get in the sun, I notice that when I get in the sun, my heart rate goes like, boop, 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 boop. Like, when I get back in the shade, it seems to calm back down. But as soon as I get in those sunny patches on the asphalt, oh, man, unpleasant. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That's a liar.
No, yeah, all you people that said 40 miles, no problem. Maybe with water. Without water, that's hard, man.
If you know you're going out in the wilderness, then you need to show it the respect it deserves.
Yeah,
And have the things that you
because
need.
a good time can turn into
A crisis, real
a
quick.
real bad time real fast, yeah.
You know, and the further you're out in the wilderness, I would recommend. You know, I don't drink, but I would recommend that the further out in the wilderness you go, the less intoxicants you probably need to partake in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, keep your wits about you. 'Cause
Yeah.
the moment you disrespect nature, nature will certainly disrespect you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
every time.
Every dang time. All right, guys. Well, tell me what you think in the comments. Really appreciate it. Chime in on this subject. Let us know what you would do in that situation. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and see you next time.